On March the 21st of this year, St. Lucia was rocked by the news of 16-year-old Gervais Emmanuel, who committed suicide. And he left behind this note when he did. And the note said, "What I'm doing is not right, but I'm tired of hoping for a change. I hope that God can forgive me and accept me with open arms, for I only want the pain and heartache to go away. Mom, I love you, and I'm sorry I couldn't be the son you wanted. Bye." Friends of Gervais came out and acknowledged that what was troubling him so deeply, the source of all this pain and heartache, was the fact that he was gay, and his parents and community were unaccepting and trying to intervene, perhaps from a very well-meaning place, but also a very ignorant place, and not knowing that this is who he is, this is his authentic, this is spiritual epigenetics, this is who he is. And the constant bullying at school, the constant lack of understanding at home drove him to that point. And I'm opening this with that story because people still, up to this day, think that Pride is a celebration of who you have sex with. And it is not. That was not the original intent of what Pride is. Pride started off as a protest. It started off as a protest against discrimination, against injustice, against just being maligned and misrepresented, and ill treatment. That is what Pride is. It is a protest. And for those who are wrapped up in the party and celebration aspect of it, I have news for you. The tide is turning. Radical religious extremism is growing. And if you think that what is going to be happening in the next few years is going to be all about, you know, the identity politic and the just enforcing of who you are, that is not it. That is not it. What needs to happen is the humanization of LGBTQIA people, and most of all, education at the grassroots level. And most of all, community and a sense of support. I live in St. Lucia as a Trinidadian citizen, so there was very little I felt that I could do to interject myself in the situation, especially after one of the St. Lucian ministers, Sarah Flood-Brubon, spoke on the matter and tried to just brush it under the rug. So it was to silence any further discussion about it, even though a lot of LGBT activists wanted this discussion to happen. So what I did instead, in my own little capacity, was put on the Facebook page for the ad agency that I worked on this post, because I recognized that what needed to happen for any other young person like Gervais is to know that even though your own little sphere in which you live might be intolerant, that is not the case everywhere and anywhere and with everyone on the island. There are pockets of acceptance, pockets where people accept people for their diversity of being, and to just hang in there a little longer until you can access those pockets, and not to give up hope, because that is what was needed, I felt, at that point. It's Pride celebrations in a lot of Caribbean islands. It would be the second time, for Barbados, for Trinidad and Tobago, and for St. Lucia, they will be doing it for the first time this year. Again, it seemed, as it was back then, it still is now, that the women within the movement are the ones who are sort of the grounding force, thinking about things very holistically, and beyond the immediate stuff. And it is a sad thing that they're not being listened to, because we need that. And yes, I know that what we aspire to is what the first world has. Not the US right now, because there, I'm telling you, it's going to take a drastic change for the worse. As for LGBT people, so that is not where you should be looking at all. And they themselves are realizing that the folly of Pride moving away from its roots as a protest, as a political platform, and into this corporate sponsored party. This has constantly been a theme and a conflict over there. When it was the midst of the AIDS crisis, it was also a conflict too, where you had people who are like, this, we need to be serious, it is time for us to act up, we are dying, this is not a party, we are dying. That is going to very much happen again, where it's trans women of color being murdered, nothing is being done about it, and where hate groups and leaders of hate groups are being appointed by the government to oversee legislation and judicial decisions. Do you think that it is going to be a party in the next few years? It's going to be a fight for survival, a fight for acknowledgement. Things are going, human rights are going to start being rolled back. And in Trinidad and Tobago, we are not even there yet as far as human rights go. Yes, it was a victory last year. You can still be fired, kicked out of your apartment, denied employment because of your sexual orientation or your gender identity or gender expression. The victory lap last year, I could understand. But it's a year later, and in the wake of that victory, a lot of people are still being discriminated against, suffering, experiencing a lot of persecution from their families, usually for religious reasons. So we need to be mindful of what is happening and tailor our movement to our Caribbean culture, our Trinidadian context, because we're in the midst of a refugee crisis in Trinidad and Tobago. People are suffering. I'm sure within that Venezuelan refugee crisis, there are also queer Venezuelans who are suffering. We last year faced one of the worst natural disasters that Trinidad and Tobago has ever seen, with floods, and nothing has changed since then. So you know what's going to happen this rainy season, and when we have the tropical waves and heavy rainfall, the same thing is going to happen. Places are going to get flooded out, people are going to be homeless, and among those people are going to be people within the LGBTQIA community, and they're going to have to be looking for emergency housing, looking for new places to live under a system where we have no equal opportunities law protecting them. What we partying for, what we celebrating. It still needs to be a protest. It still needs to be a matter of raising these issues and speaking about these issues. It still needs to be a matter of building bridges between the community and the religious bodies that are out there, the social bodies that are out there, the corporate world, and you know, that little thing, that small, very, very small and minuscule thing that I did, with the approval of my boss, to put Excel out there as an accepting and welcoming place. I mean, I urge and I put the challenge out there for the companies and corporations in Trinidad and Tobago. If you are an equal opportunity employer and you are a place that tries to foster tolerance within your workplace, come out and say so. Come out and say so, and let people know that. Let people have that hope and let them know that. And leadership, it cannot be based simply on the fact that you are queer and that you have high status and therefore that makes you a leader. Leadership is about your EQ. Are you emotionally intelligent at all? Can you listen? Can you take criticism? Can you synergize different points of view? Can you resolve conflict? Can you bring people together? Do you make people feel heard and accepted? All of these things are leadership qualities, and there are many others. And if you would like to access training as far as leadership and groups, I will leave some links in the description for you, because I belong to a collective and I belong to a school where empathy is the driving factor, and it is about understanding each other and learning to tap into that powerful, powerful, powerful force. And also, when you have a project to do, who are the catalysts? Who are the intuits? And who are the strategists? Do you know? Have you done a power archetype classification of the people within your team? I'll leave a link where you can do that. The catalysts are the people who, they just get things done quickly. The strategists are the ones who, they cross all the T's and dot all the I's. They know the systems inside and out. They troubleshoot before things happen. And the intuits are the ones who, they can sense and they can see and they can create and they can innovate very, very easily. They just know the feeling, they just know the pulse of what things are. And you need people with strengths from all three areas within your team. And if that level of leadership, training and integration and acknowledgement has not happened within any particular community that has work to do, it will be disaster. What is basically going to happen is the people who like to assert their ego the most, they're just going to seize power. The people who just have the most natural resources at their disposal and can override and bully people, they will just come to the forefront. And that does not necessarily mean that they are the best leader, that they are the best for that particular project, but you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know. And speaking of ego, our ego has taken a battering because of who we are. We have a lot of unhealthy ego issues. Myself included, I've had to work on a lot of things with self-esteem because of the ego battering. And often it can be very intoxicating, the acceptance that we get and the acknowledgement we get simply because we're queer. And it makes us feel like there is no other work that we need to do on ourselves. But there is so much work that we need to do on ourselves to make sure that we are not assholes. Yes, you're queer, but are you an asshole? You could be queer and just the worst person, and someone or people or whatever pointing that out, that you are not kind, that you're not compassionate, that you're not generous, that you're not sensitive to the needs of others at all. We can sometimes take offense to it because we're so accustomed to being on the defensive of who we are that we think that any criticism is a criticism of our core fundamental being, when it's not. All of us have a lot of work to do on ourselves. Some of us are doing the work, and some of us are coasting on our identity and on identity politics. And that's not going to fly anymore. It's not enough to carry us forward. And the people at the forefront of the movement, they have this heavy load on their shoulders to carry this image. And it's not an enviable position at all, but we need people who can shoulder that position and shoulder it well. And we have very good examples of people who have been able to do that. And, you know, we need to give them all the support that we can and move forward knowing the kind of future that we are, immediate future issues that we are moving into very, very soon. And stop trying to imitate the very superficial movement, the very superficial exterior that we see of the movement abroad. This is a different culture. This is not there. and we need a movement tailored to here. And, you know, there are people here who just do not have the luxury of imitating what happens over there. And we need to be mindful of that. More understanding and more empathy, more emotional resilience, and being able to have difficult and emotionally charged conversations without feeling personally attacked, and acknowledging intersectionality within our movement, acknowledging that being queer does not necessarily mean that you've tackled the racism that you may have subconsciously indoctrinated in you, the misogyny that you might have subconsciously indoctrinated in you. We can't afford to also be battling amongst ourselves and also try and fight collectively for our human rights. Just can't happen. And, you know, we have a lot of work to do. I am not in the thick of things because my focus is on broader human issues, the issues that affect people, who, not just queer people, but women, that affect everyone, not based on their skin color, their nationality, whatnot. The things that are coming to damage and impact our lives on a broader sense, that's what I've decided to channel my energies into. The environment, the need for a circular economy, the need for sustainability, the need for us to get back to our ecological truth and our biological, you know, the biological reality that we face, that the current economic system does not acknowledge, and human and everything stems from that. And that is what I've decided to focus on. But for those who would like to make LGBTQ rights their niche focus, that's my advice to you. I support all of you, and you know, let's try and heal and move on from, you know, everything. And yeah, happy Pride.